Thank you very much. Thanks for the kind words and thanks for the introduction and for the invitation, of course, as well. So within the next few minutes here, I will present to you a bit about Toxicology Knowledge Team, what we do and how we interact with the life science and drug development process. So Toxicology Knowledge Team was established in 2012. It was a group of toxicologists previously hired by AstraZeneca, working with the safety assessment department that formed the company. In 2021, we became a part of a Center for Translational Research. And here we have several sister companies, all with different expertise. For instance, in clinical trials, in laboratory capabilities such as bioanalysis and meta-ID, regulatory, and a special company for dermal applications, because that is also slightly tricky, and quality assurance. But back to TKT, we are one of the larger consulting companies within Europe in toxicology for pharmaceutical and chemical industries. And we have, I will present the team, but we have more than 150 years of experience within the team. And you, as a potential client, will have access to the full team, even if you just have one toxicologist as your point of contact. So who is the team here? So me, Anna, I am also a toxicologist and have a background in regulatory and inhalation toxicology with a background from the chemical industry since more than 20 years. Then we have the founders of the company. Some of them have retired. We still have 3 left within. It's Eva-Lena, Stefan and Halle. Stefan is here today. You can talk to him later as well. Eva-Lena is a project toxicologist, so she supports the drug development process, interact with regulators and authorities. Stefan's specialty is his PhD in oncology and work with genetic toxicology and assessing, for instance, both drugs but also impurities. Also knowledgeable in what we call predictive toxicology. I will come into that a bit later. Halle has a very unique specialty in safety pharmacology. Whereas Lisette, she is a generalist. She works with a lot of different tasks within toxicology. And she is also working with an area called environmental risk assessments. It's always been a fundamental part of submission of data to the authorities. But the last year or so, this has become a much more strict way of on how you need to provide this type of information. Anna Steneholm, she is a specialist within drug metabolism and pharmacokinetics, so the fate of a substance in your body. Also a very experienced project leader. Whereas Hanna, she is a pharmacist and has worked a lot over the last years with study monitoring. She's in charge of outsourcing because we don't have any lab capabilities in-house. When we do work with toxicological testing, it's outsourced to CROs, contract research organizations. Erik is, like Stefan, also expert in genetic toxicology and predictive toxicology. He's recently coming from Uppsala University, where he's developed a method, the COMET assay, that was once founded there, but has developed it further. Jan is experienced project leader as well in the drug development and come recently from AstraZeneca, So he has also experience in the biologics field and how to assess these type of substances, because the regulatory framework is different, of course, if you have a small molecule or a biologics. Denise, she is also recently hired, like Jan, and she has a very unique expertise in endocrine disruptors, which is an emerging area. In general, if you heard about PFAS, for instance, it's to understand how the hormone system in the body could be possibly affected by the impact of chemical and drugs. And lastly but not least, we have Axel, who is a bit of a data cruncher. He has a PhD in chemistry and computer science. So he, for instance, recently submitted send-like files to FDA from PDF files that were barely readable. So he was able to extract data from barely readable files into something that was you could able to actually send to the FDA. So we have a very big, different expertise, and the reason is that we will really strengthen the safety of the patients and consumers and workers. And by doing that, you need to pose the right question and at the right time to find the right solution. And we can do that by challenging the standard solution, but then applying science-driven and tailored approach that is optimized for both the client, but also from a regulatory purpose, because the authorities also want to be, their needs also need to be met. And as I said, we sit all under one roof. We actually sit physically in Södertälje right now. And by bringing this broad experience of toxicology and experience together, we cover a lot of different areas of expertise within toxicology. And we can then support both the pharmaceutical and the chemical industry during product development, but also later during manufacturing. So what do we actually do then? Oops, sorry. Applied toxicology is generally by doing a lot of different types of risk assessment. And within the non-clinical support, we currently support about 15 different pharmaceutical projects, and they are all within different phases in the development. We can also do it for the chemical industry. But as I said, we also look into impurities. What are there genotoxic impurities that needs to be assessed? And those can be assessed under the guidelines of ICH Q3 or ICH M7 to be sent to the regulators. We work with ensuring safety for patients, but also occupational health during the manufacturing phase, making sure that the substances are safe in terms of not just the substance, but also the impurities in the final product, including extractables and leachables, for instance, during the manufacturing process. And then we have predictive toxicology, where we don't have information of a specific substance. By using read across to other known substances with known data, you can predict the toxicity of a substance. And that you can do with computational tools such as Derek and LeadScope, and we have also other softwares in-house available. So then the question is, what do we need to know as a toxicologist when we work with a drug project? When is it time to involve a toxicologist? From a toxicology point of view, we need to know what type of molecule do you have. Is it a small molecule or is it a biologics? That will set the scene for the regulatory framework that we need to address. Also, is the formulation ready? Is the CMC under control? Because without a a set formulation, it's very difficult to go into a tox study. And we can't even start talking to a CRO about placing a study because we need to know this up front. And for the test item, how much is actually available? How much of the formulation is ready to be used? And have you one or several batches? Because the impurity levels could change and vary between those. Because we need the substance in the end of the day to use for the animal testing. Also, do you have a clinical plan in place? And here you need to know what region you're planning your clinical trial. That will set the regulatory framework that you need to meet. What indication? And you would think that you know the indication, but that is not always the case. The route of administration, how you're going to dose this substance, how often, what is the frequency and duration, and also what is the molecular target. These are always important things to know before you start a tox study. Also, we've been in instances where you actually found some old data lingering in the files. So that, do you actually have old data already that you can provide? Because worst case, and we've seen that happen, is that these data show up at a later stage and suddenly the clinical trial is on hold, trying to understand and explain what has happened with this tox data, and suddenly you have a clinical hold which is very expensive, and rather than doing the non-clinical work beforehand and resolving these issues before going into clinic. So these are some questions you should think about before talking to a toxicologist. Because then the drug project toxicologist will help you to resolve different questions. And one is, of course, what studies do you need to do, when to do them, and how to do them. So really putting together a tox strategy. And you can ask, why don't just use a CRO? A contract research organization, they also have toxicologists in-house, right? But often their focus is to perform studies, execute the studies, and also often to a standard protocol. And the CROs has also different specialities depending on the CRO, and author different limitations. Not every CRO has the same species, can do the same routes of exposure, etc. So that's why a drug project toxicologist, they come in with a different mindset, in a more holistic thinking of the whole project in mind, and are used also to communicate and interpret science into layman, and stakeholder communication could be much easier. To some extent, we as drug project toxicologists can also challenge the CRO, and not only with the design of the study, but also how to interpret the science, the findings. Do you think that the findings are adverse or not adverse? This is an expert judgment in the end of the day, so it's good to have that type of communication. And of course, depending on where you're working, we have the possibility to also navigate the regulatory landscape to ensure that the study is fit for purpose for where you need the study. And before starting a study, you should always pose a few questions to yourself as well, like, what is this? Why do we do this study? What is the specific question we're trying to answer in order to do this study? And also, you need to be able to explain, why did we pick this species? Why did we use these doses? Why did we pick these endpoints? Why did we not pick some endpoints? So really understand why you do things. And in the end of the day, you have several studies that will make up your program, and then you need to understand how these studies fit together in the full developmental program. Because in the end of the day, you have to wrap up all these studies, and the purpose is, of course, to ensure that you can have a safe dosing of humans, to look at what doses do we have, what margins do we have, and what about the target and off-target, possibly, and those effects. So these are things that a drug project toxicologists work with. But as I said, I will also go into something that is not involving animals, because you can work without using animals as well. And that is what we call predictive toxicology, or in silico toxicology. And it is a scientific strategy for reducing uncertainty. You will save time, you will save resources. Of course, you don't have to do animal testing. And what is special with this is, of course, you work with a computational tool, so you will need expert review to understand and also assess the methodology that you've used. And there are different types of QSAR models, and also from an assignment point of view, you can use them for prediction of genotoxicity, as I said before, but also carcinogenicity, from an M7 point of view. But in an early phase of your finding the right drug candidate, you can also look at different toxicological endpoints to try to pinpoint what could be possible issues going forward with these candidates. So really helping you select your drug candidate. And with that, I would like to show a picture of our full team that will be able to help you if you're interested in more questions. And thank you so much for today. I hope you will have a good rest of your Wednesday. Thank you.